Good evening. We begin tonight with a rare look inside Anonymous.
They're this shadowy and motley group of hackers and activists who answer to no one, drawn together by love of internet mischief.
Well, now they're evolving into this movement of social change, a real driving force behind the Wall Street occupiers. No surprise.
The secretive group Anonymous hacked one of its websites. Sometime early this morning, the group took over the site belonging to the U.S. Sentencing Commission. A long message and a video warning of embarrassing disclosures about the Justice Department unless federal prosecutors stop going after hackers.
Organization Anonymous has announced plans to take down the Fox website on November 5th. Now, does that date ring a bell to you? Because it should if you're familiar with Anonymous's favorite historical figure.
A group that calls itself Anonymous. They're hacking activists, Wall Street occupiers. They love them. Corporate security hates them, and the FBI is tracking them down. So who are these people?
Stand for freedom. We stand for freedom of speech, the power of the people, the ability for them to protest against the government, to right wrongs. No censorship, especially online, but also in real life. 've members throughout society and all stratas of it worldwide. It's one voice. It's not individual voices. That's why we don't show our faces. That's why we don't give our names. We're speaking as one, and it's a collective.
There are a number of arrests of young individuals around the world being prosecuted in their involvement in numerous cyber crimes, as they call it, by the Laws of Computer Misuse Act, like in the case of hacker activist Aaron Swartz, who allegedly killed himself or being pressured and bullied by the government in his involvement of hacking the university database to access books and journals. So they tried to intimidate us by getting to the little guys, but they ain't going to work. It only makes us stronger to get justice for these individuals.
Hacktivist collective Anonymous has replaced 2 MIT websites with a statement urging reforms to US copyright law after the death of Reddit co-founder Aaron Swartz. The message from Anonymous called the government's persecution of the 26-year-old internet activist a gross miscarriage of justice.
It is a skill, pure and simple. It is a group of like-minded individuals who like pulling things apart and putting them together again. There's always a purpose behind everything we do. It's not like we sit there and go, hey, let's take down that bank just for the hell of it. No, that happened only in support of WikiLeaks, when Visa cut all payments made to the organization by the public. Where is the freedom in that? Don't we live in a democracy? But now it's becoming more than that. What started off as hacktivism is now developing into full-on activism. "2013 is marked as the year for the biggest organized protest in mankind, set around 500 different locations, yet no one knows about it because of the censorship of the media. Why is that? It's because they fear us. They know we are growing stronger in numbers, and it is now only a matter of time before they sit up and realize, hey, we got to start heading for the caves." You see, anyone can call themselves anonymous, which basically what's happening at protests around the world. You see thousands wearing a mask. This idea of being one has brought ever closer together regardless of the colour, the gender. But every idea needs a face to represent it. Now they just need to be more organised and focused on a particular cause we want to change. What really tends to happen is they all meet on the 5th of November, which I've got to tell you, is just a magical place to be. But we will have to have many more marches like it to make something happen. Turkey done it, Egypt done it, and many more are rising up. 2013 has been the year of the people. There has been more protest than ever before, and the people are beginning to realize that something needs a voice to change. And yet again, we will not hear this in the mainstream media, because this will only make the people believe in change stronger, and they are scared of our potential and what we could become. There are thousands of millions of young kids around the world going onto the streets of major cities and shouting their hearts out for a change. Change in the system, change in the way that education works, change for humanity. We'd rather have kids believing in something much bigger, coming together as a community and supporting good causes. We'd rather have young adults standing up for the next generation. This is what they are fighting for, and this is what the anonymous movement is evolving into. It's a growing force of individuals who want to make a difference in any way possible.
Inside your mostly dormant brains, you know full well that politicians are all corrupt liars and thieves, opportunistic con men, exploiters, and fearmongers. You know all this, and yet you still speak as if you are the ones who are the stupid, vicious animals, while the politicians are the great, wise role models, teachers, and leaders without whom civilization could not exist. You think these crooks are the ones who make civilization possible? What belief could be more absurd? Yet when they do their pseudo-religious rituals deciding how to control you this week, you still call it law and continue to treat their arbitrary demands as if they were moral decrees from the gods that no decent person would ever consider disobeying. You have become so thoroughly indoctrinated into the cult of state worship that you are truly shocked when the occasional sane person states the bleeding obvious. The mere fact that the political crooks wrote something down and declared their threats to be law does not mean that any human being anywhere has the slightest moral obligation to obey. Every moment of every day, in every location and every situation, you have a moral obligation to do what you deem to be right, not what some delusional bloated windbag says is legal. And that requires you to first determine right and wrong for yourself, a responsibility you spend much time and effort trying to dodge. You proclaim how proud you are to be law-abiding citizens and express your utter contempt for anyone who considers himself above your so-called laws. Laws that are nothing more than the selfish whims of tyrants and thieves. The word crime once meant an act harmful to another person. Now it means disobedience to any one of the myriad of arbitrary commands coming from a parasitical criminal class. To you, the term crime is nearly synonymous with the word sin, implying that the ones whose commands are being disobeyed must be something akin to gods, when in truth they are more akin to leeches. The very phrase, taking the law into your own hands, perfectly expresses what a sacrilege it is in your eyes for a mere human being to take upon himself the responsibility to judge right from wrong and to act accordingly instead of doing what you do, unthinkingly obeying whatever capricious commands this cesspool of maggots spews forth. You glorify this criminal class as lawmakers and believe that no one is lower than a lawbreaker, someone who would dare disobey the politicians. Likewise, you speak with pious reverence of law enforcers, those who forcibly impose the politicians' every whim upon the rest of us. When the state uses violence, you imagine it to be inherently righteous and just, and if anyone resists, they are, in your eyes, contemptible lowlifes, lawless terrorist criminals. Like the lawless terrorist criminals who helped slaves escape the plantations. Like the lawless terrorist criminals who helped Jews escape the killing machine of the Third Reich. Like the lawless terrorist criminals who were crushed to death under the tanks of the Red Chinese government in Tiananmen Square. like all the lawless terrorist criminals in history who had the courage to disobey the never-ending stream of tyrants and oppressors who have called their violence authority and law. And that includes the lawless terrorist criminals who founded this country. Everything you think you know is upside down, backwards, and inside out. But what has to take the cake, the height of your insanity, is the fact that you view as violent terrorists the only people on the planet who oppose the initiation of violence against their fellow men. Anarchists, voluntarists, and libertarians. We use violence only to defend ourselves against someone who initiates violence against us. We use it for nothing else. Meanwhile, your belief system is completely schizophrenic and self-contradictory. On the one hand, you teach the young slaves that violence is never the answer. Yet out of the other side of your mouths, you advocate that everyone and everything, everywhere and at all times be controlled, monitored, taxed, and regulated through the force of government. In short, you are teaching your children that the masters may use violence whenever they please, but the slave should never resist. You indoctrinate your children into a life of unthinking, helpless subservience. You are putting the chains around their little necks and fastening the locks tight. And worst of all, you feel good about it. Out of one side of your mouths, you condemn the evils of fascism and socialism and lament the injustices of the regimes of Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. While out of the other side of your mouths, you preach exactly what they did. The worship of the collective, the subjugation of every individual to that evil insanity that wears the deceptive label, the common good. You babble on and on about diversity and open-mindedness and then beg your masters to regulate and control every aspect of everyone's lives, creating a giant herd of unthinking conformist drones. You wear different clothes and have different hairstyles, and you think that makes you different. Yet all your minds are enslaved to the same club of masters and controllers. You think what they tell you to think and do what they tell you to do while imagining yourselves to be progressive, thinking, and enlightened. From your position of relative comfort and safety, you now condemn the evils of other lands and other times while turning a blind eye to the injustices happening right in front of you. You tell yourself that had you lived in those other places, in those other times, you would have been among those who stood up against oppression and defended the downtrodden. But that is a lie. You would have been right there with the rest of the flock of well-trained sheep, loudly demanding that the slaves be beaten, that the witches be burned, that the nonconformists and rebels be destroyed. How do I know this? Because that is exactly what you are doing today. Today's injustices and oppressions are fashionable and popular, and those who resist them, you tell yourselves, are just malcontents and freaks, people whose rights don't matter, people who deserve to be crushed under the boot of authority. Isn't that right? You bunch of spineless, unthinking hypocrites, look in the mirror. Take a good look at what you imagine to be righteous and kind. You are the devil's plaything. The crowds of thousands wildly applauding the speeches of Adolf Hitler, that was you. The mob demanding that Jesus Christ be nailed to the cross, that was you. The white invaders who celebrated the wholesale slaughter of those godless redskins, that was you. The throngs filling the Colosseum, applauding as the Christians were fed to the lions, that was you. Throughout history, the perpetual suffering and injustice occurring on an incomprehensible scale, it was all because of people just like you, the well-trained, thoroughly indoctrinated conformists.
Once we were weak, but now we stand tall. Millions of citizens heeding the call. demanding our freedom, the birthright of all. The Arab Spring turns to the American fall. We're the 99, and we'll never forgive. We'll never forget how you've made us live. Expect us at your door. Prepare to defend. The reign of the moneyed and privileged now ends. Once we were few, now we grow by the hour. The lamb sheds its mask, the emperor cowers. The wolf bares her teeth, her hunger devours. The gleaming skyscrapers, the ivory towers. We're the 99, and we'll never forgive. We'll never forget how you've made us live. Expect us at your door. Prepare to defend. The world of the moneyed and privileged now ends. There's no job creators, a trickle-down bust, and time's running out for your greed and your lust. You've earned no respect and squandered our trust. From this day forward, you must expect us. We're the 99, and we'll never forgive. We'll never forget how you've made us live. Expect us at your door. Prepare to defend. The reign of the moneyed and privileged now